Welcome back to the channel, you FPS lunatics. How are you going today? So, a new game for us. Battlefield 6 has just dropped. Yay, finally. And yeah, I've hopped in and played around with it. And I thought what I'd like to do is just give you a starting point for settings, because there are so many settings that you have to tinker with in this game. And the footage I'm going to give you is how I ended the beta, the settings that I ended the beta with. And I've played around this morning and they are still holding up fine. Now keep in mind, this is a starting point. I can't iterate that enough. Oh, iterate, big word. Your inputs will be different, your PCs, your consoles will be different, and therefore you've got to find what works for you. But at least this gives you somewhere to start, because I know when I first played the Battlefield 6 in the beta, it was a little bit overwhelming. All the different things I had to press and change and how to find them and all that good stuff. So we'll show you all that today. For you Call of Duty players that are transitioning, this is probably going to give you some a gun feel that's very close, but again, it is very dependent on your play style and how you play the game. So hopefully it helps. If it does, let me know down in the comments. If there's anything that you find that's majorly different from what I've got and it makes a difference for you, again, leave a comment so the whole community can see. Like ratings always appreciated. It helps us grow, and we'll catch you later, Gator. Enjoy. So today we're going to go through some settings that I've got to with the beta, and and these settings are working pretty well for me. So I want to run you through these, and just so I've got them for historical purposes. Okay, so let's hop into the convoluted menus. I'm not going to worry too much about the accessibility menu. I've got kind of control vibration set off. You can go into camera effects and switch off motion blur and everything, but there's another menu where we can do that in the graphics menu. The main one is the controller menu that you have to worry about. So you've got all these edit presets, and you'll see down at the bottom there it says soldier, and then it says stick presets default, button presets alternate. So you just click into this and you can change it there. I would highly advise that you put it on alternate if you're a Call of Duty player, and all these settings are really around me transitioning from Call of Duty to Battlefield. So we're going to go into these settings now. You're probably wondering, well, where are the settings? How do I fix things? Because not exactly obvious here, but all you have to do is go to the top one, control settings, click into it, and you get all the goodness. So here's what I changed. Infantry aiming sensitivity, I've got set to 70. Inverted vertical, look, I don't play inverted, so I've got that switched off. Field of view, I play on 100. That's personal preference. Depends what you want to do. You might bump that higher, lower, whatever. 100 for me is the sweet spot, and with my old eyes, it's perfect for me. Uniform infantry aiming. Now I've got that switched off. If you want to switch it on, and you have a normal monitor, which is 16:9, I'd suggest you set that at about 176, 178, somewhere in that region. I'll keep it switched off. I don't use it. I just find it's easier for me to get used to the game with it off. Aim assist is 100. Aim assist slowdown is 100, and then I have infantry aim assist zoom snap set at 30. Now, this is one I suggest you play around with. Play around with that plus this one up the top, and try and get a balance between the two. That's what works for me. I've played around with all kinds of aim input curves and whatnot. I've stuck the standard on everything. It just works for me. Again, you might want to play around with some of those. I have seen this one. A lot of people using that one for the input curve. I just use standard. That's what I use, and it works for me. Aiming left right acceleration, I've got set to 60. Again, play around with that, see what you get, and I think that's pretty much all I've changed here. Okay, yeah, sorry. And then the zoom down here, vertical aim ratio 56, vertical zoom ratio 56, and then infantry zoom aim sensitivity 80. That seems to work for me. Again, you're more than happy to play around with those, but I landed on these and I just leave them as is. And then with these, I've got the 1.0 down to 1.5 at 75, 2.0 80, and the rest at 100. I really don't use, personally I don't use any optics that are more than 2 times zoom, so I'm not really worried about the rest of these ranges. If you are using 3.0 and above, then play around with these. Maybe set that at 80 and then progressively push them higher until you get what you need. And that's it for the inventory control settings. And this is a convoluted menu, so you get bumped back out to whatever. And then you go scroll all the way down to the bottom, because they had to put this right down in the bottom because it's not, make it not obvious. Controller tuning. Again, vibrations off, but this is where you set your dead zone. So control left stick I've got to 2 and 10 with 80% input threshold. The right stick I've got to 2 and 8, and again, play around with these. I've seen some people have these centered dead zone on 0, depends on your controller. And I've got the maximum input for the right stick at 100, and that's the only difference I've made there. I haven't played around anything else. And then finally, graphics. I've got performance on. I think by default it's balanced. I'll put it on performance. Bump the brightness just slightly so I can see in corners with my old eyes. And then these are the important ones. I've got wide field of view for a weapon, and then motion blur off, weapon blur off, camera shake as low as you can get, chromatic aberration off, vignetting off, film grain off. Switch all that stuff off. It just slows down things and it just gets in the way. And that's not unusual for FPS shooters, that all that stuff's switched off. I don't care about super realism in my game. I care about performance and speed. So they're all switched off. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Audio, I really haven't played around with. I've got to be honest. I switched the music off, which is just normal for me. But apart from that, I really haven't played around. So those are my settings for Battlefield 6.